Welcome back. All right, some news of the day for all you fine people for your Tuesday, October the 24th. Starting off with what people are talking about. Basically, the NHL came out with a memo saying if you're using any kind of societal cause and for tape, whatever, then it's a fine. And so Travis Dermott used Pride tape the other night, and I didn't really report on it because I thought the NHL's not going to do anything. And the reality is that the NHL has rescinded the idea of fining players and saying players can if they want to represent a social cause, they can. And so there you go. Players can if they want to. If they don't want to, they don't have to. And there you go. So that's all done and by the wayside. And hopefully it's the last we hear of it. It's just, to me, it's so weird because we've had theme nights for many years, and now it's become this big thing. And I don't really think it needs to be. So that hopefully is off to the side and just done. Because really, I mean, whatever guys use in warm-ups, a lot of fans aren't even there for warm-ups anyways. Heck, there's times I've gone to Vancouver games and fans aren't there for the first 5 minutes of the first period. Thinking, where were you? But then there's Vancouver traffic, so it makes some sense. Anyways, so hopefully that's it for that, and just it goes away. For tonight's game, the New Jersey Devils are expected to get Howla and Hischier back into the lineup. So the New Jersey Devils off to a 2-1-1 start. Not the kind of start that I think they would have wanted, but they've only lost one in regulation in their first four. And yeah, they're playing really, really well. So Hischier, and I do. I think they're playing really well. And yeah, with Hischier coming back into the lineup, Howla in the lineup, that should help them out quite a bit as well. The reason I'm wearing a Hershey Bears jersey is because Hunter Shepard starts on Wednesday, starts tomorrow for the Washington Capitals against the Devils. Isn't that the only game that's on tomorrow? I'm on some level excited. And I'll say why. So it's Tariq El-Bashir that's reporting this. But Shepard was a goaltender that I watched when I was watching the finals of the Calder Cup. So once the Stanley Cup final was done, I was doing the videos recapping Calder Cup final games. And Shepard's a good goaltender. So while Joey Decord played really well for the Coachella Valley Firebirds to the point where Seattle gave him a shot at the backup job, Shepard was not afforded that same luxury by the Washington Capitals. And I get it. I totally get it. But at the same time, I think Shepard's a decent goaltender, late bloomer. Sure, absolutely, and that may be part of it as well. But I hope he does well. I hope he does well against New Jersey tomorrow, and that he gets a second look. And if Washington's not going to be the place where he gets that opportunity to play in the NHL, I'd like to see him at least get a shot at it. We have seen late bloomers when it comes to goaltenders before. It's not unheard of. And again, I was just really impressed with him because just looking at his stats, I was like, he seems okay, kind of average. But then watching the games, I was like, he's a pretty good goaltender. So we'll see how things work out at the NHL level, because there are definitely goaltenders who play really well in the AHL and don't in the NHL. The ironic part being there are players who, like goaltenders who don't have great stats in the AHL, come up and do really well in the NHL. Aiden Hill's an example of that. So yeah, hopefully I got my fingers crossed for Shepard, and I'm wearing a Hershey jersey because he helped lead them to that Calder Cup, and I think he's earned a shot at least one start this year. So all the best to him. Chicago did the expected today. They've put Taylor Hall on the injured reserve. So he is expected to be out for, at least a couple of weeks, you would think. And again, as I said yesterday, just make sure he's 100% before you put him back in the lineup. Pretty simple. Players will always say, yeah, I'm good to go, even when they're hurt. Right? So Hall on IR for the Blackhawks, and I haven't seen whether or not Kurashev's playing tonight for real, if he's officially playing, but we'll find out that's 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. It's so many games. I'll do my best to remember when that Chicago game starts up against Boston, to keep an eye on whether or not Kurashev's on the ice for them. Detroit news: Petrie will not play tonight. It's an upper body injury for him. He won't be playing tonight against the Kraken. Costin is out as well. It's an undisclosed injury with Costin. So for Detroit, it's injury issues right now for, just a couple of guys, and it tests the depth. Early in the season, there's no harm in that. It's just hoping that nothing's long-term and it's not the start of something, right? So last night, Montreal gets that big win on the road, but they lost David Savard in that win. So he's out indefinitely, and it was a series of shot blocks, heroic shot blocks. But it's something I talked about when I was talking about shot blocking the other day. It looks like it was a Tage Thompson shot to the forearm that may have caused this injury that takes him out indefinitely. And so when you block that many shots, the odds of getting injured, and it could be a serious injury, goes up. And Tage Thompson with a shot to the forearm, that can break your forearm. That could break your forearm. I have no doubt about it. I don't need to take a Tage Thompson puck to the forearm to know that. And again, you're not going to have protection there like you might elsewhere, or like a goaltender has, which has always been my argument. Like, goalies are just, they're covered from head to toe. They're really well covered. And when a player's going to block a shot, they are far more vulnerable to injury than a goaltender would be. So again, I've always said, hey, maybe they should pick and choose when they shot block, but it's the NHL now. You block everything. And for Montreal, Lindstrom's been recalled. And again, without Savard, who is a good veteran voice on that blue line, we'll see how they deal with things and how that affects their pairings on the back end. So tonight, of course, we have the 16-game night. I will be interested to see how this night does, because on the U.S. side of things, you have the 16 games. In Canada, we don't. In fact, there's 4 regional broadcasts on TSN tonight. Now, regional broadcasts mean it's blacked out. It means it's blacked out. So if I did not pay for NHL Center Ice, I would not have access to those games. So that's interesting, right? That's the part of the 16-game night that I find weird, is because the NHL has those local blackouts. It's not exactly they're broadcasting 16 games for everybody, because there's local blackouts. And so while, yes, on the American side of things, you can watch this whole thing on ESPN and all the goals, you can't in Canada. And so it's also up against some pretty hefty competition. It's opening night in the NBA. There's just 2 games, but it's opening night, right? So opening night is always a big deal. And then you have the National League Championship Series Game 7. Texas Rangers, huge win last night. I am so excited for the Rangers, because the Texas Rangers never win anything. So, and Jamie Benn was in attendance, so of course Dallas had to tweet about that. But I will be interested to see how things go, because there are local blackouts in the NHL. You do have NBA's opening night. You do have this tremendous Game 7 between Arizona and Philadelphia going on, which I'm kind of sad I'm not going to see, because I've watched parts of the Major League Baseball playoffs. And yeah, Arizona's won games that I thought would go the other way, and Philadelphia's won games I thought would go the other way too. It's just like I figured, well, Houston's going to win this series because they have a lead in the series, and look at this, they've just stormed back, and then they didn't. So that was kind of a nice surprise. And I do get the feeling that there's going to be a lot of people tuning in to watch the NLCS, a lot of people watching the NBA, and that's going to have an effect on the NHL. One of the arguments about the NHL scheduling the way it is, well, they try to stay away from NFL, and they try to stay away from the NBA, and they try to make sure they're scheduling right. If there's blackouts, and if they're regional games, what difference does it really make to your viewing numbers, to your attendance, if it's in a market where there's no NFL game that night? If there's no it's a weird argument to me. I understand it for national broadcasts. I totally get it for national broadcasts. But when it's just regional broadcasts, and if it's not a market that is directly in, fighting for those viewer numbers with the NLCS and the NBA, I find it weird. I just find it weird. But again, that's me. And so we'll see how things go tonight. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Would you like to see something a little more balanced? And do you think that there's going to be a lot of ratings and a lot of buzz coming out of tonight, or is it just another night? As I said in the preview, I think it's a gimmick. It's a gimmick. They're going to see how it works. I think there might be other ways to go about it, but the NHL doesn't call me for my feedback on these things, because I'm just some guy with a YouTube channel and some whiteboards. So there's that. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And you just happened upon this video. I'm not sure how that happens, but I would imagine that it does. And you can hit like and subscribe just because you feel like it. Maybe you're bored and you just want to hit a couple of buttons. Those are good ones. But hey, thank you guys so much for all your support. As always, I will talk to you again soon.